In this lesson, we are learning about Uniswap SDK, which is an interesting way to interact with the functionality of the Uniswap contracts. If you want to actually explore the functionality or integrate the functionality of Uniswap contracts within your app and do not want to write complex code to interact with contracts, then you can directly use some of these examples to be able to, or rather, you can use the SDK to write your Uniswap code in JavaScript or TypeScript. So, in the previous lesson, we looked at a simple piece of code to retrieve data from a Uniswap pool. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at code where we are going to be adding and removing a liquidity, right? We are not going to be running this code because running this on mainnet requires, ethers, and we're not going to make that happen right now. However, you can do this on testnet as well. You need to find the right pool contract, like the pool address, and we are just going to go through this piece of code right now. So let's create a new file. Let's call it add. So in this piece of code, you can see that we are taking ethers from ethers.js. We are taking percent token and currency amount from the Uniswap SDK code. We are taking the ABI as the iUniswap v3 pool ABI from Uniswap v3 core artifact and contract interfaces, and then you have the iUniswap v3 pool.json, right? So here we need to write our mainnet endpoint, right, which we have already spoken about in the last video, so you're already familiar. We are going to look at the pool address for DAI USDC, where the fee is 0.05%, right? So the pool contract, you're already familiar using the pool address, the ABI, and the provider, you're able to get the pool contract. You are creating an interface called immutables where you are able to get the factory token 0, token 1, that is the details of the pool. This part we have get pool immutables remains the same as the previous script. But here we are going to get the state of the liquidity pool as well so that we can add remove liquidity. So we are going to get the liquidity, the square root price, tick, observation index, fee protocol, observation related variables, whether it is unlocked or not. Right. So here we are going to await, and from the pool contract.slot0, again, slot 0 is basically the storage in slot 0 that stores data related to the liquidity pool, right? So in order to get the pool state, we are going to get the slot, and from the slot, we are going to get these various variables, as you can see, right? The liquidity itself will come from the pool contract's liquidity variable, and then from the slot 0 variable, you can get the other parameters that are associated with the liquidity pool. Once you have the pool state, you can fetch the pool state from there. And then here we have another function called liquidity examples. This is the one that you will be calling. Right now, we are not calling it because, like I said, right, we don't want to spend some funds on mainnet as of now. So in the liquidity examples, we are calling who's the sender and the example type of the pool, right? So we are going to get the pool state, we are going to get the pool immutables, that is the token 0, token 1, and the other information, factory contract, etc. We are creating a constant with DAI and USDC because this is the pool here. And for now, we are getting the block, that is the current block number. We're also going to get the deadline, which is until what deadline will this particular, you want to add or remove this liquidity or this transaction should pass, right? So we are creating a pool with DAI USDC, a new pool, and then we are creating a position with the pool, right? So you are giving a lower tick and an upper tick. That is a range in which a user can provide the liquidity. And then you have different examples. For example, example 0 is setting up call data for minting a position, right? So this is you're calling this non-fungible position manager, and then you're just, adding this position or minting it rather. And then example 1 is when you want to, example 1 is when you want to add the liquidity, and example type 2 is when you want to remove the liquidity. So this is a function that you will actually be calling when you're adding or removing liquidity in the liquidity examples, and you'll provide the example type according to the action that you want to perform. So once it's been done, right? So we can see a quick example of the adding liquidity. You're just going to take the call data and the value, and you are going to say like, this is the new percent of this, blah. So you are setting this call data. So this is all about just setting the call data, right? So we need to set the call data for making the transaction, right? So once the call data is set, let's go down. Okay. So once the call data is set, what you will be doing is that this particular call, that is the API call, will perform the action for you, like remove the call parameters, or it will add the call parameters, and it will make the transaction for you. Let's also quickly go through this documentation. So, for example, here acting with the liquidity pool, so you can see minting a new position. This is sort of small. You are creating this const position is equal to new position, and then you can mint a new position, and then you can also add the liquidity. So you have the same example over here. What are the variables that are required, and how can you add the liquidity, right? You can use these functions. You can remove the liquidity. So again, the same thing, the token which you want, the liquidity percentage, slippage tolerance, deadline, etc. Swap and add liquidity atomically. So, and you can also go to the technical reference and see the different classes that are available that you are using, like position, route, the swap router, tick. What are the different enums that this supports? What are the different interfaces that are there that you can use in order to basically, build your own application? So this was just a simple example of a piece of code. I'm sure you will find a bunch of other things within the Uniswap SDK core as well, that if you want to experiment, you can definitely. However, this sort of small script is for you to just get started and understand how Uniswap SDK works, and how easy is it to basically even do things like add, remove, liquidity to a particular pool, etc. As an assignment, I highly encourage everyone to experiment with the SDK and then try to figure out testnet pools from where you can fetch the data, you can add the liquidity, you can remove the liquidity. So you have that, ease of use. And this can potentially be used in any use case that you want, right? Wherever you are going to swap, wherever you are going to swap within your application, wherever you are, say, for example, providing some options for users to get incentivized if they provide liquidity through your platform, right? You can make everything happen through your platform just by integrating this SDK in your platform.